But the reality is life is not fair. You need to accept that. What you believe is what you achieve. 5 people you spend the most time with, you become an average of that. So whatever we believe becomes self-fulfilling, and you have to change the programming, the voice in your head. That's the most important thing.
I'm delighted to announce in the 9th year of ChampionWoman, CW Candid Conversations. Everyone asked, where can we get inspirations and stories? You have a great network, but how are we going to reach that network? So I decided, let me try and get a few thought leaders on the show so that they can share their stories and inspirations. They inspired me personally in my journey, and I'm hoping that that can be shared with our viewers. And today I'm proud to say that our first guest on the show is Mr. Ravi Venkatesan.
Hello, Ranjini.
Hello. And the reason I picked you, Ravi, is that you're a good friend, but also a well-wisher of women in entrepreneurship, women leaders, because all of you already know that he's a business leader. He headed Microsoft, Cummins, Bank of Baroda chair, and he's a wonderful writer. His books are selling by the millions, and he's now putting his heart into things and saying, here's my social entrepreneurship with building huge entrepreneurs in India.
Well, I'm honored to be on your show, and that too, number 1.
Yes, guest number 1. You're our lucky mascot. So we just wanted to have a conversation with you to ask, what might be 1 or 2 practical things that women could do?
Well, I'm not so sure I have any silver bullets, but one thing I always tell people is, there's no substitute for working hard. Okay, much as you may say, talent is important, and luck is certainly very, very critical. But even today, AI, technology, all that, hard work still matters. And I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels that way. Recently, Roger Federer gave a very famous commencement speech to graduates at one of the big schools in the US. And he said, I get really irritated when people say how effortlessly he plays. Okay, how effortless that stroke was. If they only knew how much hard work I had to put in, not sure many people would still play tennis. And it's the same with me. I think all my life, I worked harder than almost anybody around me. And I think that's still a good recipe. Particularly since this is a woman audience, I would say that, of course, being a woman is a big part of your identity, but I wouldn't construct my professional self around that. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you need to think of yourself as a leader who's trying to make things happen in the world around her. Mm-hmm. And I would say that should be your core identity, not are you male, female, Indian, non-Indian, this color, that color. These things are secondary or even irrelevant. You have one job to do, which is to maximize your potential and make the world better.
Right. So I love that, because when you say the woman has to already think of herself as a leader,
yeah,
it's true, but she has to do something a little bit more to push herself forward, because so many centuries she has been sidelined, and you said that in your LinkedIn post.
Yeah, life is fundamentally not fair. Okay, you may think you deserve A, B, C, and how come that person has it easier, and that person could be male or whatever, gone to a better college. But the reality is life is not fair. You need to accept that and just strive to overcome whatever challenges it poses. And yes, I think we live in a male-dominated world. That's true in most countries. Certainly it's true in our own country. Mm. But it's just one more constraint you have to overcome. I had to overcome many other constraints. Gender wasn't one of it. Mm. Yeah. But there were other things. For instance, I went to the US for graduate studies. I took a job in a factory. My first job after an engineer, by the time I was 25, I was actually manager, running a production line and so forth. Mm. And when I tried to get the workers there, this is now 1988, tried to get them to work harder or make changes, they used the race card against me. Mm. Okay? Now, I can moan and groan and say, how unfair is this? But no, that's reality. Okay, people will resist change, and that's what they did. And I had to learn to overcome that. Now, same way, I think women also have to strive in order to overcome these things. Look at you. Okay, you didn't start out like this. My wife Sonali, who is highly accomplished, she started out as a fairly ordinary person. And anybody you look at who's self-made and accomplished, Narayan Murthy says obstacles are what you see when you're not focused on the goal.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
So you need to stay very, very focused on what you want to accomplish. And there will be obstacles, but you need to deal with them. And perhaps there are significant obstacles in where you are at this moment, just because you're a woman.
Right.
But you have to find a way around it. You can't allow yourself to be constrained and held back by it, nor become a victim and moan about it. Just get on with it.
Right. You talked about 3 things in your, and I was inspired by your LinkedIn post, Ravi. That's why I came and grabbed you here. How would you suggest that a woman works to build her self-esteem and push herself out there?
Look, upbringing or nurture has a big role to play in all our lives. And the sad truth is a lot of us reach adulthood and along the way people have told us what we're not going to be capable of. Okay?
Right.
You're never going to be able to do this. They nibble away at your self-confidence, your self-belief. And there you are now, teenager. And you have to learn to overcome this programming, because it's a program that has been built deeply, deeply now into your mind. And as I've said often, what you believe is what you achieve. So if you start believing what people around you have told you, that you're always second class, second fiddle, your elder brother will be the one who's going to go ahead and do these wonderful things, or the male students in the class get all the attention of the teacher and the opportunities. So you arrive at this point feeling a little less than confident and less than sure. First step is awareness. Then you have to work to overcome it. How do you overcome this lack of self-confidence? Mostly by looking for role models. Hey, you have to look at other people who you admire and say, how did they get there?
Which is what you said. There aren't enough role models.
The problem for women is there aren't enough role models in any field, although that's beginning to change, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, etc. So you need to make a little bit, first of all, we need to, through your program and other programs, shine the spotlight on many, many more successful self-made women. And they can't be spectacular successes like you or Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, because they won't relate to them. They need to see people just like them, similar circumstances, who have overcome those constraints and made it. So I'd say job number 1 is try and find your role models who you wish to emulate in some way, shape or form. The second thing is your peer network. Again, in my book, I repeat the famous saying, 5 people you spend the most time with, you become an average of that, or whatever that thing is. So make sure those 5 people are those who are going to nurture your self-confidence, boost your self-confidence. Say, Ranjini, go for it. You can do it. You will be successful. Don't worry. If you fail, we're there. So find those people who are going to give you that confidence, not people who are going to nibble away at it and make you smaller. You want people who will make you feel bigger than you are feeling. So I would say that's the second thing. That includes finding 1 or 2 mentors and so forth. And then the third thing is there's no substitute for success, which means what? No matter how afraid you are that you may fail or be ridiculed and laughed at, try something and then make it successful. And then that gives you self-confidence. Now you feel you can take on something bigger. So baby steps leading to bigger steps. I think these are the ways I would say very practically you overcome it. And by the way, this has nothing to do with being a woman. Maybe the deficit is a bit larger for an average woman.
Yes.
But I grew up feeling extremely underconfident. Okay, when I was so shy and underconfident that when people used to visit our house as a young boy, I would go and hide under the bed in a dark room at the back because I didn't want to meet them.
Can't believe it's you.
That was me. So I was always the shy one in school and class, etc. So you have to overcome those things. Mostly those are tapes in your mind, which have been it's like a computer, over time it picks up viruses. And in our minds, we pick up these viruses and you have to get rid of it from time to time.
Right. You have to declutter, debug. And actually what you're saying is so true, Ravi. One time I remember you played the role of a mentor for me a few times in my life. And once I came to you with a music show that I'd put on. And IKEA. And I'd said, oh, Ravi just did a little music show. About 1,000 people have shown up. But I don't know if I can keep this up. And you said, stop right there. Listen to the tone of voice you're using. What's wrong with you? You're belittling your own achievement. Never do that. First, you stop that. And that was a very big lesson.
Totally. So there's a beautiful saying attributed to Henry Ford over 100 years ago. He says, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you're right. Yeah. Okay? So whatever we believe becomes self-fulfilling, and you have to change the programming, the voice in your head. That's the most important thing.
Ravi, one of the most important career moves we as women make is who we marry.
Yeah.
Because they can either advance your life or actually put a pause in it. And so often in our sessions, we talk about, please choose that person who supports you. So one of the 5 can be the man. But I'm asking you, what would you advise a male ally to support women, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a manager at work? What could he do in order to support and advance women in the work life and maximize their potential?
These are 2 related but different questions. I think this is where luck plays a giant role in life. So much of what happens to us is determined at birth. Which family you're born into, the kind of parents you have, the country you're born in, the society. And so it's a big one. Who you end up marrying, whether it's by your choice or the family's encouragement, whatever it is, again, is similarly profound and has binary consequences. It can either take you really far, or it can become the biggest stumbling block that holds you back. And so I'm not a marriage counselor, but I would say if you're unfortunate to have a spouse who's not encouraging you, then pay attention to the first advice I gave. Surround yourself with others who will provide that nurturing, the support network, etc. But the other question you asked is, what can you do as a male? I suppose the most important thing you can do as a male is to genuinely believe that women are at least as capable as you and as men. I think a lot of people will say that, but I'm not sure in how many cases it is truly a core belief that women are every bit as capable, and in some circumstances even more capable than men. And if you believe that, what you do is then become blind to gender, and you just focus on opportunity and so forth. And you also start treating the woman around you, whether it's your spouse, your daughter, the colleague at work, employer, the way you would wish to be treated yourself. I don't think you need to do anything that special. It's not fine if you do. But actually, if you just treat others the way you would wish to be treated, 98% or 99% of the problems go away. Go away. It is. Yeah, so I still don't think the majority of men anywhere truly believe that women are every bit as capable. Okay? And that's the mindset shift that needs to happen.
So do we need to then run our ChampionWoman programs more for the male allies?
I think so. Not more. I think they're equally. I think we need to help more men see this, and that to see it earlier in their life. Maybe as we get older, we begin to realize this. Okay? But what's the point if it happens at 60? Okay? Should happen at 20.
Right. I agree. So just looking at the capability, but also the special things that they bring onto a team, right? Did you have some experience in Microsoft? You once told me when I did a story, I asked you in an interview about meeting times and including women in meetings by changing timings. You remember?
So first of all, in all my leadership teams, not by luck, but by intention, I ended up with a lot of senior women. So you look at Microsoft India during that period, 2003 to 2011. So we had Neelam Dhawan, who was a rock star person leading this sales and marketing business. You had Joji Gill, who was our head of HR across everything. Meenu Handa, who now runs comms for Google across Asia Pacific. She was my head of communications and what we call citizenship, and so on and so forth. So you had not one, but I think it's also important not to have one, because there is some strength in numbers also, okay? So if you really want to create that right dynamic, there should be some equality in the numbers. Otherwise she feels like the token woman and so forth. Any case, so as a result of this, we did try to make better choices. And the incident which I'm surprised and shocked you remember nearly 20 years later was, we had very high attrition amongst our women employees. And so we did focus groups to understand why. And one of the things they said is, look, these guys, they just hang around all evening. They start meetings at 7:30 or 8 in the evening. We've got go back home and run families and all that. It's fine for them. So, it just doesn't suit us. And so we actually, for a while, I don't know if they continued the practice, began to shut down the lights after about 5:30 p.m. And, that forced everybody to leave. And then the guy said, look, we should have done this sooner, because it's improving our work life and balance and our family relationships. And generally, everybody was happier. And by the way, the work got done. Okay. So there's just a number of ways in which I think paying attention to various marginalized groups, it could be women, it could be anyone else, ends up making the whole workplace much better, happier, productive, and so on. Don't listen too much to the advice of elders, which includes, therefore, me, but then apply critical thinking to figure out what really makes sense to you. Are afraid to tackle new challenges because they're afraid they'll fail. What is missing perhaps in many of our lives is the emotional support we need to keep going.
Champion a woman, she will build the nation.